Imagine
A podcast.
where time drifts slowly,
A podcast.
where
Isaac.
carries you away.
So let me be clear. We tortured some folks.
If you don't like what we tell you to believe in, we'll kill you.
President Benjamin Netanyahu, the Prime Minister, has not gone so far as to say the war is over. In your view, is the war between Israel and Hamas over?
The war is over. The war is over, okay? You understand that?
It's not good news. The Israeli military is currently striking the Gaza Strip.
They could barely even make it a week. They couldn't even make it a week into this Trump-brokered ceasefire. I wanted to believe it, of course. I wanted to believe it. I would have happily given Trump any stupid fucking trophy he wanted if that meant that the children of Gaza got some respite. Obviously, I'd put a massive asterisk by whatever peace award he won, but it didn't last, and it wasn't going to, because Israel cannot help it. Their genocidal mania knows no bounds. And in this latest attack on Rafah, this breaking of the ceasefire, which of course Israel blamed on Hamas, saying that they launched some RPG attack. But the truth is that an Israeli settler bulldozer ran over an old IED. And that's why they had to break the ceasefire. That's why they had to kill more children. I apologize for starting off so strong. Hey, hi, hello, it's Isaac. You're listening to Coexist Inc. This episode is actually a rather hopeful one. On today's episode, I interview Dr. Dhia Daoud. He is an emergency room doctor based here in Florida. He's Palestinian-American. I met Dr. Daoud the other week at a protest of Yoav Gallant, the former minister of the military of Israel, who came to speak in my hometown. And Dr. Daoud arrived at the protest right off the airplane from Israel, where he was illegally detained. He was a part of that most recent flotilla, and he was in Israeli detention at Sderot, where he was tortured. He also, I would learn, was a doctor in Gaza for 4 weeks as a part of a European hospital attempting to administer humanitarian aid. But Dr. Daoud is a very hopeful man. In spite of everything that he's seen, he spoke in front of these protesters who, again, were protesting a war criminal coming to America, unfettered, doing some bizarre sort of victory lap about the end of the war, which, of course, even a week ago when it first happened, I was very skeptical. Dr. Daoud brings a message of hope. If you've felt like you haven't done enough, which I feel every single day, and you fear for the future, I talked to Dr. Daoud, who has 4 children and a wife, and he risked his life going to Gaza twice. And I asked him how he manages to do that, because I told him I would like to have children at some point in my life, but I fear the state of the world, bringing children into that world, and also then prioritizing my children over other people's children. And that's something that I worry I would do, that I would sacrifice other children to keep my children safe. Dr. Daoud assures me I do not have to think like that. A lot of people have asked me over the years, what am I supposed to do? What can I do? Tell me what to do. And I usually don't have a good answer for them. But the good doctor, I think, in this episode provides the best answer I've heard yet. The beginnings are quite simple, and it's really just about getting started and speaking out and making sure that these people feel heard and seen and supported. Did you go to the No Kings protest? I'm not going to shame you. I don't think it deserves as much hate as it gets, and I know that I can be a pretty cynical, skeptical guy, and I'm not going to be like that right now. But if you did go to the No Kings protest, did you talk about Gaza? Or did you stay away from it because it's a little touchy for some of the libs out there? And if you didn't talk about it, why not? It needs to be spoken about. And those are the moments, those are the beginnings. And I think the doctor would agree with me. These are the moments where you are obligated to at the very least, talk about it.
لأجلك يا بهية المساكن يا زهرة المدائن يا قدس يا قدس يا قدس يا مدينة الصلاة.
I'm not usually a big fan of like the chanting, the back
Yeah.
and forth. For whatever reason, it's hard for me. But listening to you talk was such a pleasant surprise.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, no, I agree with you 100%. It's always nice to have, audience that listens to a speaker, experiences, things like that. So the experience can be meaningful, and people who are like, and don't understand what's going on, they have a little bit of information about it.
It's also nice when it's not just a bunch of white people talking amongst each other. I gotta admit.
That's
So,
true.
so that was really and the things that you said were powerful and hopeful too. I think that's the one thing that I look for a lot right now in the conflict is like signs of hope because it can feel so dour at times. So
Yeah.
again, I really appreciate you. So my show is very informal. I usually just like to talk to people, but I would like to introduce you first. Please let my audience know who you are and how you and I met yesterday.
Sure, yeah. So, my name Isaac. My name is Dr. Dhia Daoud. I am an emergency medicine doctor in Orlando, Florida. I am a Palestinian American. I came in here at the age of 22. I came uh, I used to be a pharmacist before I became a physician. I went to medical school at age 33, finished emergency medicine, and also yes, I specialize in emergency medicine, trauma, things like that, resuscitation. And I worked at Cleveland Clinic in South Florida for almost 2 years. Then after that, I went to Orlando, and then that's where I practice.
Now, you were born where in Palestine?
So I have a mixed background. So I'm a Palestinian of origin, refugee. My father was a refugee from or a 1948 survivor, which was what we call the Nakba. So it's basically when the first massacres happened and in the displacement of the Palestinians happened in 1948. There was massive displacement at that time, close to about 800,000 people. Some people say it's about a million. So this huge number was displaced from almost all Palestine, and it went all the way. Some of them went to Jordan, some of them went to Lebanon, and then majority went to actually Gaza. And then that's where my dad stayed in Gaza. Then after that, in 1967, the another war happened between the Egyptians and Israelis and Arabs in general. And then the another displacement happened of the Palestinians. So my dad and then his family went to Gaza, from Gaza, I'm sorry, to another refugee camp. So Gaza is considered a huge refugee camp because all of the Palestinians, which are about a million, went all the way to Gaza. And then after that, now another displacement went from that huge refugee camp, which is Gaza, Jordan. And in Jordan, my dad settled, and in his family, he was young at that time, and then they all settled in a refugee camp called Gaza Refugee Camp in Jordan.
there's multiple Gazas.
Exactly. So double Gaza,
Double Gaza.
double Gaza over there.
um,
So
Now, you yesterday when you arrived to speak in front of the Jewish Federation, where wanted war criminal Yoav Galant, the former Minister of Defense of Israel, was speaking for some reason, and I actually got a little scoop on that. I'll tell you about in a moment. Uh, you were just in Israel. You were detained. You were part of the flotilla. And the first thing you do is you come to Sarasota to speak to us to protest Yoav Galant. Is that right?
yeah, yeah. I came in my detention clothes that they actually gave me when I was there. So they took all of my clothes and all of that, and then I came in right away. Like I literally slept for a few hours, and then I went. Like when I heard that, I was just honestly in shock. Like how could the United States bring and allow a wanted war criminal by the ICC and ICJ to come into the United States and make a speech on commemoration of October 7th victims and in Tampa, Florida. We were all in shock. I mean, like how could that happen? What happened to our morals? What happened to our moral compass?
I would expect it maybe in like West Palm Beach, where there's like a larger Jewish Zionist population, but here in little sleepy Sarasota, I was just like, why? Why is he here? And the
Yeah.
fact that you came, I mean, you didn't even rest. You you came
Yeah,
straight
yeah, and I
to
and I
with
drove
your
I
whole
drove 3
family.
hours. I brought my family. And I was like, let's go. We need to go. This is a mission over there, and we're peaceful people. Isaac. Like we're not here to cause any harm to anybody. But when it comes to a war criminal who killed hundreds of thousands of people that we don't, well, 70,000 that we know of, and in hundreds of thousands that we don't know of under the rubble and everywhere in Gaza. And then it comes in your doorsteps over here in America. So that and showing his face and in literally like coming in and then make a speech in commemoration and all of that, and into our beloved brothers and sisters, the Jewish blood brothers and sisters. It's insane. Like, how could that happen? What happened to America? What happened to the Jewish population? Why is it like, the Israelis, they're and the Zionists in general, they what they do is that they use the Judaism to justify a lot of the things. And then one of them is, number one, stealing the land, saying that we were promised that land. Promised by who? Promised by our God. I mean, their God. So okay, so what about my God? What about the Christians' God? What about like why is it you are the only chosen people, and in only your God chose this country for you, and in to come and in take the houses and the land from an indigenous people that lived in that area for thousands of years, and then take it and then allow it and justify it in the name of Judaism. To me, this is all mind blowing. And then where is the Jewish people? Where is the outcry about that? Where is, and then after that, killing them. And then they say, oh, these are Amalekites. And then that's his exact words. We're dealing with human animals, kill all of them. What about the children? What happened to, to the Old Testaments, and then don't kill, don't steal, don't this, don't do that. And then they did everything in the book, everything in the Torah that the Torah told them not to do, and they did it.
No, it's I have to believe it's some kind of demonic mind virus that has taken people over, because I've tried to explain this to other Jews. Zionism is heretical. You cannot trick God. God was supposed to allow the Israelites to come back when the time was right. But these people are trying to skip a few steps or something like that. And to boot, like, if you look at me and you look at you, who is genetically most likely like an Israelite? Like
Yeah,
who has actual like ancestral like DNA in this
yes,
place?
yes.
Not me.
And that's Isaac. That's what a lot of people don't understand. Like Palestinians are the actual true Semites. If you take my DNA, you're gonna find a Jewish ancestry in me. Gonna find so we're the descendants of the Jewish people, and then the Christian people that became either Muslims or stayed Jewish or actually became Christians, and then we the Palestinians are the Semites people. And then people don't understand, like, the Europeans that came in from all over the place and then came in and they said, okay, we're Jewish people, it's fine. But to come in and they say we're the true Semites, and then this land is promised to us and all of that, and then the people over there, the indigenous people who are the true Semites and the descendants of the Jews, are not the truthful owners of that country, is really mind blowing. And I truly don't understand it. And then people don't understand the history, or they try to obscure it for obviously the Zionistic, propaganda that they want to share it with a lot of people, and then they want to obscure the truth and then the knowledge and the history of.
No, and of course they'll try to get you with these little gotchas like there's no P in Arabic, so Palestine isn't real or some I mean, just like and I try to remind them, like I'm like, Hebrew is not a real language either. Like
That's
we
true.
made that up. That was just made up, a handful of like 100 years ago.
Yeah.
So it is very frustrating, but if it's not enough, convincing them on these like little historical matters are should be more difficult, I think, than just showing them the suffering of children. But that even doesn't seem to affect them. So trying to talk about history, if they won't accept history if they're not going to even accept what's right in front of their eyes. So there has to be something else. There has to be another way forward to really like change people's minds and wake them up. And I think that, when you were speaking at the protest, a lot of it was about direct action. A lot of it was about sacrifice. And you, like I said before, were just detained in Israel, having participated in the most recent flotilla. And I'd like for you to tell me about that experience and what that was like.
Of course. So this genocide has been happening over the past 80 years, since 1948, and even a little before that. And in the past couple of years, Israel engaged in a war on Gaza that is non-discriminatory, and in its vicious and in vindictive way towards basically killing every single living person over there, Palestinian, Hamas, non-Hamas, any kind of Christians, anybody who's there is to them a threat, and then he needs to be killed, especially children. I saw that in 2024, and I'm just going back a little bit just to tell you that I went there also in 2024 in a medical mission, and then I visited Gaza with a group of doctors, and in truly, Isaac, all what we saw, 99% of the people that we saw over there were like only children. Only children, massacres of like 6, 7 kids around you. They're all dead or like dying or burned alive, or like it's just insane. The things that we saw was inhumane. It's just like things that will really like stay with you forever. With that being said, the problem was basically us trying to help, but at the same time, the more we help, the more victims come over. Like every single day, the first steps I put in the hospital, in the European hospital in Gaza, not even an hour, and then a mass casualty comes in, and then a bunch of kids and a bunch of people, on the floor. We're trying to see who's alive, who's dead, who's like in emergency medicine. We categorize patients as red, black is dead, and then red and orange, or sorry, red and yellow is kind of like these are the critical patients, and then that needs attention. And green basically takes the least of our attention. That means they're in good condition, and then survival injury. No, and then you have to go through all of these patients to figure out which one is alive and which one needs my attention. And then I came across a lot of patients where I really wanted to help, but at the same time, due to lack of medical equipments and due to the lack of ventilators and in beds and all of that, I was begged not to really do anything on them. I remember this 10-year-old kid who was on the table, and then I looked at him, and then he was gargling and gasping for air. So, I tried to listen to him, and I'm like, I kind of listened to, and I'm like, I found a little bit of a heartbeat, and I'm like, this is somebody that this is my arena right there. We start CPR, we put lines, we resuscitate him, lots of fluids, blood, everything, X-rays. We tried to figure out what happened to him, and then and then make it like a happy success story. But unfortunately, the ICU team was around me, and they said, like, we can't do CPR on this patient. I'm like, why? And then they said, because we don't have ventilators and we don't have beds. So I'm looking at them, and I'm like, this is crazy. So and I'm like, and then there was like a lot of other patients, and I'm like, let me just see other patients. Maybe I'll find somebody who I can help. And I go out, and I'm like, no, 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 I need to go back. So I go back and I start doing the CPR, and they're begging me, and they said, please, no CPR. We really don't have any beds. We don't have ventilators, and this guy is gonna die anyway. So please don't do anything. So, I mean, that was like, that was me, the first encounter in first day in Gaza. No equipments, nothing to really help, and then nothing really to do. And then I can talk to you for hours about that trip, but this is not our point of some. I mentioned that story just to tell you that was the reason why I went to the flotilla. The flotilla is a way to break the siege on Gaza. The problem is the siege on Gaza. Right now, you have a genocidal regime that is creating a siege on Gaza, choking Gaza, no supplies, no medical equipments, nothing goes inside Gaza. So even if I go there to try to help, I won't be able to help. I'll be looking at victims, and they're dying in front of me. And then the second thing is that, the flotilla that we were on, it's called the Conscience Flotilla. We had journalists with us. And then the whole point of having medical or medics and doctors, and at the same time, and half of it is medics and doctors, the other half were journalists, is because the regime was also targeting these journalists who are providing information about what's happening in Gaza. But instead they were targeting them and then killing all of them, and preventing free journalism from going into Gaza. If you yourself go and ask to go into Gaza, you will be denied immediately. And the reason is because they're going to tell you, oh, it's not safe, it's not this, it's not that. But there are journalists that from Gaza themselves, but instead, they're preventing the world attention from getting into everyone's house because they don't want the truth to be shown.
Yeah,
So
I
us,
I
yeah,
love when they're always telling you, well, why don't you go to Gaza? If you're going to criticize Israel, and why don't you go to Gaza? And it's just like, you can't.
you can't,
You literally
That's
cannot go to
100% accurate.
Gaza. Yeah.
Yeah, and in minimal amount of people, the people who go to Gaza are counted in hands. I would say, over the past year, but if I want to count them, probably close to 500 doctors that only went to Gaza, that literally entered Gaza. Nobody can leave, nobody can go in. And then if you go in, you just count it in the hands. And then when you go in, you're not much of a help as a doctor. And then they do it just because these handful people, they go inside Gaza, they do it so that they can say, you know what, here we go. We're getting people in to come and help. We're not bad people, but they do it in a very sneaky, crazy, vicious, vindictive way. They're just letting these doctors go in, and then they take their medical equipments. They take, I told you about a story of this orthopedic surgeon who came inside Gaza. And then when he went through the Limbi bridge, which is basically called King Hussein Bridge, which is between Jordan and Israel. And then obviously Israel, controls it from inside. And when you come through Jordan, the Israelis come in. They take all, they search them. They take everything they have. There's no money allowed, nothing allowed, no medical equipment's allowed. Maybe you're allowed to get a tablet or a computer or something like that, and that's it. They took all of his stuff. They took all of the equipments that he got with him, the rods, the needles, everything that he wanted to do surgeries with. And then that guy stayed for 2 weeks looking at the walls. doing nothing. And he was like in a devastated way. Going into Gaza is a privilege by itself. And I feel privileged that I went there in 2004. And in that guy, I feel so bad for him because if I was in his place, I would be devastated, seeing all of these victims in front of you and not able to do anything because there's nothing.
No, that's like it's it's hard to imagine that kind of cruelty on top of that. Where it's just
Yeah.
like, why'd you let me in at all just to
Yeah.
witness this thing?
Yeah.
Um,
But
was it?
that's why I chose to go in this route in the flotilla with this group of journalists and doctors to grab the people's attention and the world's attention that there's a deliberate targeting for the medical doctors and also for the journalists to prevent truth and also prevent helping the Gazan people. And then the whole point is one thing: genocide, committing a genocide, without people knowing about it. That's exactly why when you prevent doctors and medical care, people are going to be desperate to leave, and that's what they want. They want displacement of the entire population of Gaza, so that the whole entire demographic can become Jewish or majority is Jewish. And then that's what they want. When you get rid of 2 million people, that's a major victory for the far right genocidal regime, which is governing right now Israel.
No, the flotilla. You were captured at sea. You didn't you didn't even reach Israeli waters. You were in international waters when they captured you, correct?
Correct. We were about 150 nautical miles from Gaza. Our intention was not to go to the Israeli borders or any borders. We wanted to go straight to Gaza in a humanitarian effort, and then we're obligated, and every single country in the world is obligated, according to the United Nations, to go and then help the Gazan people who are under a genocide. And instead, the Israelis abducted us in that area in the international water, brought helicopters and in all of that, and then abducted us, and then they took us to the Ashdod port, which is in Haifa, Israel.
So, just I guess you can throw that on top of the pile of crimes that the state of
Exactly.
Israel has committed. I mean, it's
Exactly.
it
In the middle of the silence of the entire world.
Yeah, no, and the way that the media covered the flotilla was really upsetting because not only did they not show just how many people were a part of this flotilla, because there were hundreds and hundreds of people who went and actually overwhelmed the Israeli Navy. Like a few places kind of got close to getting through, or at least like it took them quite a while to abduct all the people on these boats. So they captured you illegally, then they illegally detained you in a prison, and I heard the conditions were horrible, that they were making people drink out of the toilet and wouldn't even give them water.
Oh yeah, we there was no water, or like no bottled water or anything like that. If you want to drink, you drink from the tap water. There were no toilet papers over there, so I used to go grab a little bit of water to clean myself, and then it was just a mess.
How long were you
Like
detained for?
as I was detained for 2 days, and the third day they took us, because we signed a deportation paper saying that I was, I'm trying to be deported within 72 hours, pretty much. According to the Israeli laws and all of that, and then we signed it because we didn't want to stay there. We had no intention to come to Israel and no intention to go in that area. Our job was very clear. We're a humanitarian mission, and then we're basically civilians. We're carrying humanitarian aids, and then we're taking it to Gaza. And then we traveled approximately almost for 7 days in the ocean, We had a lot of activities over there. We called a lot of organizations and a lot of hospitals over there to to make sure that we give them hope. Like for example, we called Al Auda hospital, and then we talked to the directors over there, and then and then we cheered them and we told them that we're coming and all of that, so that they can have some hope. The Gazan people have had no hope whatsoever. I'm just going to tell you this little story about the hope. I was when I was in Gaza in 2024, the doctors and the people over there, they told me one thing. They said, you guys have no idea how much we are happy to see. And these people are top-notch doctors. Like, they're amazing doctors. They don't need us. But to them, we were basically like, the hope that there are people are asking about them. There are people are remembering them. There are people that are actually remembered the Gazans. That's what really meant to them by us going there, that we haven't been forgotten. The whole world, according to them, has forgotten about them. And to them, when they see us, they see hope. And then they see like, oh my God, there are people who are actually thinking about us. I mean, they were in shock. Like, you should see their faces when they look at us. So so we were trying to revive that hope, and we were also trying to revive the conscience of the whole entire world, and that's what we did. That's why we called it the Conscience Flotilla, because to us, the world's conscience it was close to completely absent from the crimes that has been committed against the Gazan people. Yeah, so to complete that, yes, we went in the ocean. I mean, sorry, in the Mediterranean Sea, and then we were abducted 150 miles away from there, and they came in with helicopters, 2 helicopters, and we were ready, trained to really, and when that happens, what to do. Because we don't want any kind of casualties. We didn't want any kind of, because to be honest with you, this genocidal regime is ruthless. You can expect anything from them when they kill 700. Well, I'm sorry. Well, according to the recent statistics, they think that the number of casualties is close to 600,000 people. The people that we know of are 70,000 so far. So imagine this kind of genocide happening in our history. So we didn't want any kind of confrontation with them. We just want to, tell the world these are forgotten. You need to do something about it. So we went there with a little bit of symbolic aid, and then with us being doctors and journalists trying to really revive the hope and then revive the world's conscience in this mission. But they abducted us in the international water in a criminal way.
Was it still worth it though? I mean, like you were saying, giving these people hope in the face of a kind of hopelessness I could never imagine. Does that make it worth it, even though you didn't get to take the supplies in, even though you didn't get to administer aid? Is it still worth it to you?
100%. 100% worth it. To be honest with you, a lot of people ask me this question, a lot of my American friends texted me while I was in a flotilla, and they said, why are you doing that? You have family, you have kids. Why are you doing this? And I had one simple answer to them, and I said, what makes my family, what makes my life worth more than the Gazans? What in your opinion makes my life worth more? These people sacrificed their lives. They sacrificed their families, their kids, their children, an entire families have been wiped out from the registry in Gaza. Entire family with their roots and cousins, everybody. There's no, for example, there's no Kashta family. There's no this family. It's just gone, disappeared. So what makes us better than? And then that's something that the Americans have to really to really think about it. Like, what makes you better than everybody else?
Well,
What makes this?
that's the problem. I mean, that's so ingrained in the American psyche, is the individual above all else. And I think about this too. One of the things that scares me from having children is how I will begin to prioritize them over other kids. And so I saw you brought with you to the protest your wife and I think you had 2 young daughters with you, correct?
Yes, 2 young daughters and my son too.
Your son. And
Yeah.
it's yeah, I think people would use having that in their life as a reason not to sacrifice, that they must prioritize their family, their children, their wife over strangers.
Yeah.
And how do you feel? How do you respond to something like that?
So again, same concept. What makes my kids better than the other kids that died? In jail, I saw this guy. His name is Marwan Fathi Abu Qara. He put his name. He scratched his name on the in the bunker bed, and then he put his name there. And then he's like, I was detained in 1/1/25. I have my son Asim. He's a shaheed. He's a martyr. And I have my son Fathi. He's a martyr. What makes that guy's life worth than mine? What makes his kids worth my kids worth than his kids? It's selfish to think about this in this way, and to me it's a moral obligation on every single person in the world to move and not to be silent about this. And then you need to sacrifice, because every sacrifice that you're putting over there is a noble sacrifice. And not only a noble sacrifice, it's an honor to sacrifice your life and sacrifice your lives, the lives of your kids, in order to save these people. We have in the Quran something called, if you prevent the death, or if you save one life, it's like saving an entire the lives of the entire world. And then if you kill one life, it's like killing the entire world. And then that's how we should think about things. And then, to be honest with you, I sat with my son before I left, and then I took some lunch. I took a Chick-fil-A. He loves Chick-fil-A. I took a Chick-fil-A meal, and I said, listen, I'm going to Gaza. I might not come back. And
How old is your son?
my son was 10-year-old, and then I said that I did the same thing with my daughters. And then, but my son is a little emotional kid. And then he's such a wonderful son. And I really wanted him, to remember me in a way that I had a closure with him if I went there and I died for this sake. And I told him, Jad, I want you to remember this. If I die, I chose that, and I chose to die in an honorable way. And then if I die, I want you to do exactly the same thing. I want you to go to Gaza, and I want you to take care of your studying. I want you to be an amazing kid. I want you to finish college and then go to Gaza and do exactly the same thing like I did. And if it was in Gaza, and if it was somewhere else, I want you to do exactly the same thing. And then, you know what my son said? He said, Dad, I want you, if I'm next year, if you come home, and I hope you come home, and then if you go to Gaza, even if I'm 11, or if I'm 12, or if I'm 13, I want to go with you to Gaza. I was like in tears, because, this is how we should raise our kids. Selflessness, um, internal sacrifice towards others. That's what we need to teach our kids. And that's what we need to tell people, that don't think that, okay, if I have kids, then I don't know how am I going to really take care of them, or if I'm going to sacrifice, against, helping others or something like that. I got 4 kids. And I want all of my 4 kids to do exactly the same thing I'm doing. Exactly the same thing. And I tell them every single day, how good you are if you don't go and help others. How good you are if you're not good to your neighbor, if you're not good to your community, if you're not good to America. How good you are if you're not good to the society. How good you are if you're not good to the world. I want you to take care of your environment. I want you to take care of yourself, so that you can help the others. I tell them, you being rich, or you being a doctor, it's not about you having money. It's about you having money and spend that money towards helping people. Any power that you have should be channeled towards helping others, not towards helping just only engaging into, fun activities. And, yeah, and that's embedded in our culture, the American culture. Oh yeah, let's go have fun. Oh, it's a weekend, let's go. And in this selfish nature that we have in America is actually poisonous. And it happened from, a lot of long time of, honestly, like lack of education, lack of proper, I would say, media, or television, concentration on the morals of the kids. And then also an education system, like an education system, they focus on one thing. Let's give the kids, some information about this, about that. But what about the morals? What about the things that you should teach? And then also the parents, the parenting skills have been declining over the years, to the point right now parents are depending on the schools so that they can teach them morals, but that doesn't happen really.
No, the hyper individualization of Americans is, I mean, I blame the Protestants personally. I like to blame the Protestants for it. And I feel like to tease my Jewish friends, I like to say that Zionism is Protestant in its nature. Like they share the same values of this sort of hyper individual selfishness. Um but because it's scary, I mean, it's very scary for a lot of Americans to give up even the slightest bit of comfort. I don't know why. But what kind of baby steps can people make in the meantime? Like, most of us aren't going to Gaza. I mean, not
Yeah.
only
Yeah.
can we not do that, but I think that, like,
Yeah.
I don't want people to be paralyzed, and because I feel this sometimes too, where it's just like, what am I supposed to do? I have a microphone in front of me, and I've probably ruined careers in my life talking about the things I feel compelled to talk about. That's nothing. That's barely a sacrifice because I enjoy doing it. What can people do to begin, instead of just like being paralyzed by not knowing what to do? Like at the bare minimum, yesterday, I went to the protest. I put my phone in a Faraday bag. I wore some glasses and a mask to disguise myself, just because I do not trust that place and the
Yeah.
security apparatus they have there.
Surveillance. Yes,
Oh,
of
I
course.
mean, they're putting insane amounts of
Yeah.
surveillance there in
Mm.
particular. And the cops are pinging your GIS systems and your phones. They
Yeah,
know
for sure. For sure.
they knew
I
who was there.
agree. Yeah.
But you were saying something, and this is something I've heard before. Just like paying attention and showing people that you care and that you are looking at them and you are acknowledging their suffering, their existence. Like, that's the bare minimum you can do, right? I mean, would you say that the people of Gaza, if you are like talking about them, if you are sharing their stories, like, that's not nothing, right?
Well, that's actually a lot. That's actually a lot. Yeah, I'm gonna tell you something about sacrifice that people put in order for them. I understand, first of all, that there's a lot of sacrifice if you are talking about this issue. Okay, being number one, you being Jewish. Okay, I can tell you this: you've been, you know, accused of being a self-hating Jew, and then alienated from the Jewish community,
It's on
and
my
then
business
pointed,
card.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and pointed at as this is the guy who deserted his family and heritage and religion and all of that. 100%, 100%. It happens. And then it happens every day. I have a lot of Jewish friends who had the same exact problem. But I can tell you this: there's this speech by our prophet, and it has nothing to do just by only Muslims. It's for everyone. It's for, like, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Christian or Muslim. And then it's a beautiful, beautiful say. And then I'm gonna translate it to you. And in that say, it says, if you depend on God, the way you should, okay, the way you should, he would give you what you want, and he would give you like a sustenance, same exact way that he's giving birds. They wake up hungry in the morning, and then they go out, and then they leave with a full stomach. Isn't that true? Isn't that true that the birds, they go very hungry in the morning, and they go, like, they don't know where they're going, they know what they're doing, they don't know what's going on. Lots of, like, things that are happening to them, like, they could be killed, they could be done, like, happened, eaten by other birds or something like that. And but yet they eat, and they go home to their nest full, with a full stomach. There is a higher power than just us in this world, and this higher power is what really what we really have to believe in, and that's what's called belief. Okay, and that's what we should always believe in, that there is a higher power that's in our religion as Muslims. It's God. He's the one who's feeding you. He's the one who's sustaining you. So if you think for a certain reason you will be silenced, or you will be fired from your job because of your political affiliation, or your political views, or your Instagram or Facebook posts, or anything like that. Yes, you could have that. But if you think that this will prevent God from feeding you and in putting food in your table, you're mistaken. You have to put the sacrifice, and don't worry about that. Don't you worry that God is gonna leave you alone. Will never leave you alone, especially if you're in the right path, and you should be in the right path. And then, even if, like I said, like, even if I have to put my life on the line, I don't have a problem with that, because that would be an honor for me. And then I would be remembered for the rest of history as somebody who put his life on the line, so that he can revive the hope, and revive and change the world. And then that's what we should do. And then and eventually, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to die one day. Okay, whether I'm going to die from cancer, I'm going to die from, like, COVID, I'm going to die from this or that. I'm going to die. I don't care when. I truly don't care. And I did what I wanted in my life. I got beautiful kids. I got this and that. And my God is not gonna let these kids go anywhere except, like, into a good place, because he will take care of them the same way I took care of other people. But to answer your question about what can we do, number one is, yes, talk about it. I have a lot of my friends personally, as a doctor, that what they do is just party and go somewhere else, and then have fun here and there, and all of that. And then when you talk about it, they say, "Yeah, it's a horrible thing." Yeah, oh no, I agree with you. It's just, but why don't you guys talk about it? I don't see anybody posting anything. I don't see anybody doing anything. And that's what kills the Gazans, the silence of the Americans. America has a lot of power in the world, and then it's no surprise to anybody. We're the biggest power in the world, and then we're the biggest superpower, and then there's nobody is coming close to us. Okay, but use that power into your advantage. We're the only one of the only countries that we have freedom of speech. We have this, we have that. A certain point, obviously, now things are shifting towards like lots of surveillance. You can't do this, you can't do that, you can't say this, you can. The minute you post is in Facebook, and then it's against the algorithm, gets taken away, and then gets restricted, and all of that. But we should talk about it. We should talk about it in the clubs. We should talk about it in the dining table. We should talk about it in us going out, in us going to anywhere. You should talk about it. Why are we not talking about it, Isaac? Why? This is crazy. This is crazy. I don't understand it. Like, people's lives don't matter anymore.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with just people wanting to be polite and pleasant, because I I can bum people out at parties when I bring up certain subject matters, and maybe they don't want to talk to me, or maybe I don't get invited back or whatever.
Well, don't think that didn't
Um,
happen to me. It happened to me too. It happens to me
oh
all
yeah,
the time. Yeah. Yeah,
yeah.
and I start avoiding you.
Yeah,
And then that's and
it's
then that is what I'm trying to raise the problem. People don't want to talk about it, and they don't want to share these experiences because it, number one, it offends certain people. Number two,
it's more fun when it offends people. That actually makes it more interesting. If everyone's just like nodding in agreement, like, yes, this is bad, yes, this is bad, it's just like, okay, well, what are we doing here? But if there's someone who tries to defend Israel, oh, then it's gonna be entertaining for
yeah,
everybody because I'm gonna get fucking worked up. But
yeah, for sure.
I do think that there has to be a way to balance it out because you can't it can't like there has to be hope. There has to be something positive. It can't just be completely just a big bummer all the time because then it's just then I think you kind of start to like sleep in more and just
That's correct. Now we're going to stage two. Stage two is basically when we talk about it. Okay, what are we gonna do about it? Now we're not gonna just sit silent and then just cry about it and all of that. No, I refuse to stay silent. I refuse to really make injustice happen. I refuse to make to like basically weep and cry and do nothing. We have to channel this anger and channel this kind of talk into something meaningful, and then that's the other stage that happens after that. So after stage one, when we talk about it, we listen to podcasts like your podcast. We talk about these things in public. We educate people about it. Talking about it is not only a talk; it's actually educating people. I was touched by the Jewish people when they come in and then they rallied and closed the central station in New York. I was touched by them going everywhere, Jewish for peace, doing lots of things, and then educating the Jewish young people that what the Israelis are doing in your name is completely against what we believe in as Jewish people. And that is where this comes into action. Then people start now thinking, understanding that Israel is a horrible terroristic country that is actually hijacking our religion and in our name trying to really cancel an entire population and displacing them and killing them in our name. This is the worst thing that have done to anybody. The first worst thing that they ever done is hijacking the Jewish religion. Think about it, when you say that I'm a Jewish person right now, was it the same like in the past?
absolutely not. I mean, it. I don't even like saying it now. I mean, I don't. I only like to like tactically deploy my Jewishness to like defend people who are criticizing Israel. I'll be like, no, he's cool. Like, that's fine. That's the only reason when I want to even
And
like
it's very
say it.
sad.
No, it's
It's
very
very
sad.
sad.
It's
It's
very sad.
very sad that it happened, but it's also very good that it's happening right now for the Jewish people, because have Gaza haven't happened. Sadly, the massacre, and the genocide really had a good side of it, which is basically bringing us all together, Jewish, Christians, and Muslims, and at the same time, shedding the light about this genocidal regime that has been oppressing these people for 80 years. This would have never happened. This is the good side, sadly, the good side of
Yeah,
of
I
of, of killing of killing approximately 600,000 people.
no, I was just thinking about this the other day that the Palestinians are saving the world. I think they're through their sacrifice, the world can be
That
a better place. It
There
has to.
truly are
Yeah,
heroes.
yeah,
There
I really
truly
think
are
so. I really
heroes.
think so.
Amazing people. And I wish things goes well so that you can go to Gaza, so you can mingle with them and then talk to them. You will be shocked how amazing and nice and in warm people the Gazans are. You will be like literally shocked. And that's one of the reasons that the people, when you go for the birthriders, they go like they take you into journeys into Israel, but they tell you don't go to the Palestinian areas because they're crazy, and then they are like terrorists and all of that. But a lot of people who went there and went to the Palestinian side, they were in shock. Like they're like the nicest people we have ever seen, and they truly are.
I did that. I did birthright, and I went to Hebron with Breaking the Silence, which are the former IDF soldiers who want to change like the Israeli policy. And yeah, the Palestinian people are wonderful. And in fact, the only people who were ever scary to me in Israel were Israelis. And I was there in 2014 during, I think it was Operation Protective Edge. And there were Israelis, like leftist Israelis who were protesting the government, who was Netanyahu back then too. And they were in Rabin Square, and all of a sudden these buses pulled up, and out of these buses poured like Israeli thugs, and they just started beating the shit out of all the protesters. And the other Israeli police, they didn't even protect their own people. They didn't even protect their own people.
No.
So like I was like, it was I was
And
never a believer in the
and
Zionist
as
project, but
no, for sure, Isaac. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but to let you know that there's a very overwhelming evidence that the Israelis actually did the massacres, and then they blamed Hamas for it, and then that's what happened in the kibbutz. They basically shelled them with all of the with the tanks and all of that, including the Israelis that were in the kibbutz.
They admitted to doing the deploying the Hannibal directive. And I don't know how you feel about this, but there are some other theories out there about the Israeli government's complicity in, for instance, moving the Nova Festival between the kibbutz and where the Hamas rebellion occurred to maximize civilian casualties. And some people find that the notion that not that Hamas was collaborating, but that Israel knew about it beforehand and almost wanted it to happen so that they could subsequently genocide Gaza, believe that that takes away from the spirit of resistance of the Hamas fighters. But I don't see it that way, although I wouldn't put it past the Israeli government to do such a thing.
Oh, 100% have no... I would believe it without any doubt. I believe it 100%. And the reason is because Charlie Kirk himself questioned that, like, how could this happen? You know, with one of the most surveilled wall in the entire world. And number two, how could the Israeli government like wait about 6 hours to really go and then do something about it and then do a move towards like helping the people over there? It took them like 6 hours to move. This is crazy.
There was a lot of suspicious stuff there. Yeah.
So whether it happened because of them or not, the genocidal regime does not care about the Israelis. And that's one, like I was interrogated by, in a prison, I was interrogated by one of the Israeli soldiers. And he's like, I just want to talk to you. And I'm like, I really don't want to talk to you. But what do you want? And then he's like, you know, and then he's like, and I said, and then he's like, what is your name? I was like, you know my name. And then long story short, he's like, why you're here? I said, I don't want to be here. You abducted me. And then he said, I want to ask you, well, you know, like, just want to talk with you. And I said, yeah, go ahead and talk. He just wants some information from you and all of that and knows what my affiliations are. Like, I was like, why are you guys here? And then I told him what. And so on. He's like, you know, we're in a humanitarian aid and we're coming here, helping the Gazans. And then you guys abducted us. And he's like, yeah, but we didn't find a humanitarian. I'm like, yes, there was humanitarian aid. And I just laughed at him because that's also one of the propagandas that they always say, like, you know, we went there, we couldn't find anything.
Yeah,
and
I
then
saw those videos.
they'll just, it's just like a whole propaganda, the whole lies, like every single thing they say is a lie. Everything they do is a lie. And then that's what happened. But long story short, I told him, Benjamin Netanyahu does not care about you. He does not care about the Israelis. He just cares about one thing. He cares about him staying in power. And he's using all of you guys. And the entire Zionism is based on that. And he understands it. the entire concept of Zionism is about using the Jewish people as a tool to justify their presence over there and to justify taking and grabbing the entire land and grabbing the entire, like, whatever is in that land towards their towards like their benefit and in the benefit of other countries that are supporting them, including us, the United States. And it is sad because Israel presence is to them, to the United States, is basically geopolitically important because that's how they control the Middle East. So 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 that's one of the things that happened to me in jail. And then he's like, no, but October 7th and this and that. And then they start telling me about the propaganda. And I'm like, oh my God. So some of them, they understand what's happening. Some of them, they don't. The people who understand, that actually we had 3 Israelis on the flotilla. They came in with us. And then when I had a lot of speeches on the flotilla, and some of them were crying, sobbing, they're like, I'm so sorry that this is happening.
No, when something is done in your name like that, it's like people try to say like, well, what does that have to do with me? Like, not only like as a Jew is this being done directly in your name, but as an American too, this is being done in your name with your money. And so this idea that it's this faraway thing that you have nothing to do with, every single American is complicit. Every
Yeah,
single person. And
yeah,
you
and
cannot.
then myself, I'm honestly, I was embarrassed to say I'm a Palestinian American, like really embarrassed. And then a lot of Americans right now, like ask any American who goes anywhere in the world, they're embarrassed to say that we're Americans because like we're looked at as like selfish, complicit. We don't care about the lives of the Palestinians or even the lives of other people. And in arrogant. That's how people portray us from our actions in the United Nations. Any United Nations resolution that comes out so that we can help the Palestinians and stop the war in Gaza. Look at what happens. Immediate veto from the United States in a very, very disrespectful way to the entire United Nations. It's just a slap in the face to every single American and to the entire world as well. Like how can we do that to the Palestinians, and how can we do that to our people, to the Americans as well? It's very sad. Like I fought to come to this country, and I'll fight for this country for the rest of my life. But to see this is just unimaginable. Like how did we reach to this level that we are actually complicit in a genocide, supplying this lunatic state with massive amount of weapons that they dropped close to 200,000 pounds, like approximately 2 to 3 times the nuclear weapons that were dropped in Hiroshima and Nagasaki combined in a small area, and killing this massive amount of population and destroying an entire civilization that reaches about 1,000 or 2,000 years. It's just insane.
That's and you can compare it to all different kinds of things. You can compare it to the bombings in like Dresden, and you can compare it to Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But like Hiroshima and Nagasaki, I mean, there was fallout for years afterwards, but it happened in an instant. This is like a slow moving, just like
Yeah,
hell. It's not. It's
true,
unimaginably
true,
terrible. And
true.
so if you don't feel compelled to do anything now, or haven't, like it's not too late to do something, but you've got a lot of catching up to do if you haven't done anything yet. Even if it means, like you said, people like to go out, have a good time. Yeah, I like to do that. I think you can make rules for yourself, like for every drink that you buy, like how you buy a round for your friends,
Uh-huh.
buy a round for the people of Gaza too. Like if you're gonna buy for yourself a drink, find someone in Gaza and just give them money. Buy them like a metaphorical drink, right? Something.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
those things that makes a difference, even if it's not gonna like fix the problem. At least like it's a show of faith and hope and care.
Yeah, man. I agree. We have to talk about it. We have to do something about it. talking about it and educating people, even if, like, even if you had to call out your friends and tell them, why are you not caring about them? Why don't you care about the lives of others? That's one thing. And in number two, that I always tell people to do, call your local representative. Say, like, what the hell are you guys doing? Why are you supporting sending weapons, billions and billions of dollars to a lunatic state that kills people? If you don't even care about the Gazans, okay, care about your community. How do you feel about sending billions of dollars when a lot of homeless people are there? When you have tons of hundreds of thousands of student loans, when you don't have health insurance, and then you can't afford health insurance, or you choose not to do a health insurance so that you can afford something else.
Right.
It's just that's another way of doing it. Like, but at the same time, like, care about others. You say, well, you know what, I'm doing it for the people in Gaza, but at the same time, we also need money for ourselves. We need money for our roads. We need money for my health. But what about me? Like, what about, like, my student loans? What about, I'm going to share this story with you, Isaac. I had a patient one time, came into me, and then she said, like, she's dizzy. And then I said, what happened to you? What are you eating? What are you drinking? This and that, trying to get some information from her. And she said, like, well, I donated blood a day ago, or today, I forgot when. And then that's why it happened. And then I usually do that, like, every month or so. I say, every month, that's a lot. Why are you doing that? She's like, I needed the money. I just couldn't comprehend that. I said, what do you mean? She said that she donates her blood so that she can get money so that she can afford things, while we're sending weapons, like hundreds of thousands of pounds of weapons that cost billions and billions of dollars to a genocidal regime to kill kids, children of God, okay? And in while they're videotaping their death. I mean, I don't understand. If you're not to the point, if you don't reach that level where you're actually thinking about that in all angles, then you really have a problem. You have a major problem, major flaw in every angle, in your personality, the way you think, and then you have to reconsider a lot of things about your life.
And the metaphor there, that anecdote you shared, is about blood. And not only are they sucking the blood of the American people, but then they're sucking our blood to go spill blood overseas. And
Exactly.
it's just all blood. So yeah, I mean, it makes me go insane. And I don't know, it was so good meeting you, and it gives me lots of hope and inspiration that, in spite of everything, like, there are still people out there fighting, and they know the cause, and they're willing to sacrifice. And so, Dr. Daoud, thank you so much for talking to me today. I really appreciate it, and I
Well,
hope to
thank
see
you,
you
Isaac.
again soon.
Same here, Isaac. Anytime. Thank you.